Hi y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can tell by the title in the video, we're going to be discussing my coming out story. So I'm about to go refill my coffee. You grab a drink, you grab some popcorn, and let's get into it. There were two signs looking back that kind of hinted at the fact that I like women more than friends. One was because I remember in middle school, I would always take those "Are you gay?" quizzes that you see online. You don't really see them that much now, but growing up when I was in middle school, they were like all over the internet. And I remember one particular night, late night, I was laying in my bed, and I think I was on my PSP. Some of y'all don't even know what that is because it was ahead of its time, but I was on my PSP laying in bed, and I was like taking those quizzes. I just remember taking like 2 or 3 back to back, and I kept getting the same answer. And then another, but I never told anybody about it. I never like discussed with anybody. I didn't really know what answer I was looking for. I just remember I was so curious about what being gay meant and what being a lesbian meant, and those are the only two terminologies that I knew, was like gay and lesbian. I didn't realize that you could be bi and pan and asexual and like so many other things. But anyway, so the second sign growing up was that I had the hugest crush on Diamond from Crime Mob. Insert picture here. I just thought, and I still think to this day, that she is so beautiful. But I remember the first time I saw her, my jaw literally dropped. And I was like, this is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my whole entire life. And I never told anybody else that either. I never told anybody else that. Fast forward to high school, there's a guy that I was seeing for what felt like the entire span of my high school years and a little bit into college. Once I got, and I never had any like feelings for, I didn't think that I had any feelings for women at that time because I was actively dating a guy. So I get to college, I spend 1 year at the university, I take a year off, fly down to Orlando, Florida to do the Disney College Program, which I can definitely make a video on that if you don't know what that is or if you're interested. I specifically remember the moment that I had a crush on a girl for the first time in real life. So I remember I was working down in Disney World at the Disney College Program in Orlando, Florida, and I was a character performer. This girl was a character attendant. I specifically remember like having this feeling like I want to be around her all the time. Like everything that she says is so funny. I love her energy. And I remember like always, it's embarrassing now, but I remember like always trying to like crack jokes to make her laugh. Like, I'm not saying I'm not funny because I am, but I specifically remember doing that. And I remember looking at my schedule and being like, oh my gosh, I hope that she's there on Tuesday, or I hope that she's there on Thursday. And I knew what I was feeling was what I would feel for a man, but I couldn't put a label to it and I couldn't name it. So I kind of just put a cover on it and like shoved it under the rug. And because I did that, I dealt with a lot of internalized homophobia for years. I had to unlearn that. And what I mean by internalized homophobia is I thought that what I was feeling was normal and okay, but specifically I remember when I would see men like expressing their sexuality, I would get so turned off, and I'm like, that's weird, like why are they doing that, like aren't they embarrassed, like like why can't you just be straight, like, and they were just being themselves. But because I didn't know how to be myself, I was being homophobic pretty much. like without even like I realizing it. A lot of that, some of that I can attribute to like growing up, not necessarily because I grew up and I went to church and in like a sort of religious household, but because some of the sermons that I would hear in church demonizing any sexuality that wasn't heterosexuality, I started to keep that in my brain. So when I started to see it, I automatically associated it with being wrong and evil and all these things that are like, we all know that shit ain't true or accurate. So, but that's what I associated with because I was hearing that from a young age. Sips tea. I never pursued anything with that girl who was a character attendant. It never went anywhere. I remember specifically though, when I found out that she had a boyfriend, she was talking about him to me one time. I was so disappointed. Like, so disappointed. And that's how I knew that, like, I was feeling something, like, in my heart, but I just didn't know, once again, like, how to express it, how to label it, what to call it. Sweaty talking about this. So I completed the Disney college program, and then I transferred to a different university to finish my bachelor's degree. And while I was at school, I made this group of friends. There was like, I don't even know, like 6 of us, I think. And these people were so comfortable in their queerness and in their sexuality that it kind of like pushed me like out of the closet to be more comfortable in mine. Because I was very shy. I was afraid for people to know that I had feelings for women. I didn't know how people were going to react. I was still processing it myself. And I specifically remember at the college I went to, there was like, that's when like Tinder was like really popular and kicking off back then. I would like switch, I would toggle like my sexuality preferences on and like back and forth between men and women. Like, at the times that I didn't think people were on as much because I didn't want people to recognize me on campus and be like, oh wait, she's gay, like, even though no one was going to give a fuck. Like, but for some reason when you're in the closet, it feels like everyone's opinion is like the weight of the world, and it makes such a big difference in how you can live your life. Looking back now, it didn't make a huge difference. Like, at all. So I would do that. I would toggle back and forth. I'm talking to my friends. I'm trying to speak with them and just get advice because they were just so themselves, and that's what I truly aspire to be. So how I came out. I believe that I came out in 2018. I don't know the exact year, but I remember the exact moment. I came out to my friends within that time period. I'm just like, yo, like, I think I like girls, like, but I don't know if I like guys. Still, like I don't know how I felt. So I came out in 2018 as a lesbian. I came out to my parents via text in a group chat. If you're thinking about doing that and you don't know how your parents are going to react, or your family, don't do that. I don't suggest it. So I came out to them, and I literally remember, and I quote, I said, just want to let you guys know. Oh, I said, I was working fast food at the time at Wendy's, and I was having a really fucked up day. And I remember I messaged the group chat, and I was like, I'm already having a bad day, so I just want to let you guys know I'm queer. And that was like the end of all the message contained. I waited like 5 minutes before I was heading back to work because I was on my break when I sent that. And I remember, I can't remember if it was my mom or my dad, but I think it was my mom who messaged and was like, what's a queer? Like, my parents had no looking back, I realized that my parents had no ill intent. They just weren't as educated as I was about the spectrum and about the rainbow of sexualities that are out there. And they grew up in a completely different time than I did, so I can't put pressure on them or expectations on them that are completely unrealistic. So I'm not gonna lie to you, right after I sent that message and got that response, everything else was a blur. Like, I don't want to sit here and talk out of my ass and be like, and then my parents said this, and then they did this, and like, because I really don't remember what happened after that. I remember those 2 messages, and that's pretty much it. I go back to college. I'm cutting my hair. I'm like dressing different. I'm like hanging out with a bunch of guys. Like, I'm just like totally immersed in this whole like what I thought was like a lesbian persona, but like looking back, there really isn't one. You're just being yourself. But I was so immersed in it that I thought I had to dress a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way, cutting my hair. And really, I really think that I was just experimenting and trying to figure out what I was comfortable in without any like judgment or influence from my parents. So I'm also grateful that I got the opportunity to experiment and do all those things away from home. So I remember specifically, and I think it was 2020. I moved in 2021, so 2022. Okay, so I remember specifically in 2022, I just woke up one day and had a random crush on the man. Like, it was literally like someone sprinkled like dust on me overnight, because I literally woke up the next day and had a crush on the man. And I remember I was so not gonna lie, I'm just gonna be completely honest, I was like disappointed in myself. Because I screamed to the whole world that I was a lesbian. Because I love women, because I'm a homosexual. That's why. Like, and oh my God, like, because I genuinely at that time thought I was. And I remember just having these feelings for this guy, and I remember just literally I like sat in a room one day and I almost like brought myself to tears because I was like, what am I feeling right now? This is not who I am. This doesn't make me comfortable. Like, I don't want these feelings. But it wasn't like a normal crush. Like, it wasn't like I saw someone and was like, damn, like, he's fine as shit, and like started to get to know him, and like it did not happen like that. I remember specifically that he was not even on my radar. I did not think anything about his looks, nothing like that. But I got to know him as a person, and because I got to know him as a person, I started to develop feelings for him after I got to know him. What do you call that? Pansexual. But I didn't know what that was at the time either. He was like just feeling disappointed in myself, feeling like looking in the mirror and being like, okay, so what are you now? Like, what are we doing? Like, you have this label for years, and now all of a sudden you wake up one day and you have a crush on the guy. Like, what the hell is actually going on right now? I do not know. So that relationship with that guy did not go anywhere. It was a dead-end street, and I'm grateful for that because it honestly did not need to go anywhere. So it wasn't until the next year, I believe in 2023, the very beginning of 2023, that I came to terms with the fact that I'm attracted to men and women and non-binary people. It was a lot for me to digest at first because I thought that a label defined you. Like, if you chose that label, that's what you were. Your whole personality revolved around that, and like that's what I thought for years until I realized like me being part of the LGBTQIA community isn't like all that I am. It's just a small part of who I am, but it does not make up my entire personality, if that makes any sense. I came out again in 2023, and I don't really label myself now. Like, I don't have a label, but if I had to box myself in and put a shipping label on it and push me out somewhere, then it would be pansexual, because I feel like I definitely fall in love with people's personalities, and then their looks are just a bonus. Like, I'm never like, oh my God, like he or she is so attractive, like I gotta get to know them, like, right, like that's never been me. But once I like start to like you as a person, I see you more attractive than maybe you initially were to me. Like, it just I'm able to acknowledge your beauty more once I get to know you. And that's when I realized that that's when I realized that. And I've been kind of like just grieving with that since last year. It's been great for me. So it's so funny because I feel like I meet people and I've asked this on TikTok, and I'm like, looking at me, do you think I'm gay? Or like looking at me, do you think I like men and women? And I always get a 50-50 response. Like, people are either like, I 100% knew the minute that I met you, gave you a hug, shook your hand, that like you were part of the LGBTQ community. And I get other people, I was like, wow, I had no idea. I thought you were straight. Like, I always get a mix, like that 50-50 response, which I think is fucking hilarious. So being in like a heterosexual presenting relationship, I think that's the right term for it. At first I was like, well, I need to still remind people that I still like women. Like, I need to remind people that I'm part of the LGBTQIA community, despite the fact that I'm in a relationship with a man. And I'm glad that I unlearned that need for external reassurance or validation or whatever it is, because honestly, it doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I know who I am at the end of the day. I know that I like what I like, and I know that I'm with the person I'm with because they help make my life better, and I love them so much. So I really don't need to prove that I'm anything. I just go out there and I just be myself, and people can think what they want about it or not think about it at all. There's a quote that I heard that has stuck with me since I heard it, and it said, "You'll stop thinking about what people think about you when you realize how little they do." And that has like stuck with me. So if you're worried about what people may think of you, they probably ain't even thinking about it. Like, not in that way, but they're probably not thinking about your sexuality and all that as much as you may think that they are. Any advice to someone who was in the closet or not out yet? I would just say, take your time. Like, do not, in some situations you kind of feel like this pressure, like I have to come out right now, and then you come out and you're like, okay, like this, it was a little bit awkward, but take your time. There is no rush. You come out when you feel most comfortable to come out, because we all know that some people live with their parents still, or their grandparents, or their housing situation may not be safe for them to come out as gay or bi or whatever it is. So just take your time. The world will be here cheering you on whenever you do come out. If you don't think that, I'll be here cheering you on. Period. I just want to take a minute and say thank you so much for watching my video. If you're here to the end, you're a real one, so thank you. If you have any suggestions, videos that you'd like to see, just comment below and I will definitely do a video on that. Other than that, stay queer and have a happy day. Bye.